it's one we're authorized to use.
Awesome.
Thank
Rick,
you.
I
Thanks.
think
Yeah, that'll help. Yeah, I had to do it because I'm the host. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, in talking with the academic dean, I think he'll want to get eyes on to kind of make the call.
Yeah, so you guys see my screen yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the instructor would basically come in, they'd pick the course they're going to go into, that they're wanting to make the edit. They would go to the syllabus. So they've got the link right there. And then they would just see this edit my salsa. Like in the final form, we just straight up replace the edit link that's normally there so that they're always editing it in our system.
Okay.
So they would click edit, that'll open up a new link and have them authenticate. There's something with Butler's single sign-on, it's a little different. Usually it'll just drop them right here because you're already logged in Canvas. I don't know why it makes you log in again there. There's something different with theirs. But they'll get an authorize and they'll get a little message indicating, hey, you're connected now. And this is now what we have in our version, right? So say they're like, okay, I want to change my title. So they just click that and they're like, this needs to change as well. Maybe I've got some more things that I want to add to my class information. I want to change this thing, whatever, right? So they're going to go make all their changes, go through their document, updating things however they see fit. And each of the fields have already been defined at the template level what they can and can't edit.
Okay.
So whatever they're allowed to edit is what they'll be able to change, and they can just come in and change that as they see fit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of high level how that would work.
And then anything like George was showing us a minute ago about campus-wide policies like you're on right now, you know, that
this one's not set up.
The library does this or whatever.
Yeah, so
stay the same.
So when we create your template, you would define the areas that you want to be like centrally managed, and we would just set those up in the template and not make them editable. And then if you ever needed those changed, you could just put in a change request to us, or if you had someone that knows HTML, they could go make the change themselves.
Okay.
Click on institutional policies once, just so they can see.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's where theirs are. So this is their set that they have, and they have a pretty extensive list there, but it's whatever you want. So when we set up the template, we identify all that, and we just code that in to the template.
So, you know, in terms of like, you know, from an administration point of view, they know that every single one of their syllabi has that. I mean, it's hard coded, right? And so there's some definite comfort to having that, knowing everything's in there, knowing it's the right thing. It's not the last version or the, you know, whatever. And I don't know how much time your faculty spend kind of updating those things, but even if it's, you know, half an hour or, you know, 45 minutes a semester, that adds up, you know, that adds up to some real money, and probably not their favorite part of the job.
Yeah.
Correct.
And one of the philosophies we have with the editor itself, you'll see whenever I get into one of these, like say some editable text that they want to just change more in the text, we pare them down to just like, you could bold stuff, you can make it italics, or you could turn it off. You can add a link, you can add a bullet, you can indent, or you can outdent. And that's pretty much all the control we give. Everything else should be defined at the template level. Is our philosophy with that. Like, so you, like George said, you don't want to spending a lot of time designing a syllabus. If that's really their forte, you want to bring them into the template design process and get that baked in for what it needs to be for everyone. And if there was an edge case, we'd make a specific component for the more advanced things to make sure it's still accessible. What we don't want to do is have someone that hasn't been trained on website accessibility going in there and adding a whole bunch of stuff because they know HTML, but they don't understand the ramifications and what the consequences are of putting things in there that aren't accessible.
So show them over on the right-hand side, John, just like these, you know, turn off Technological.
Yeah, so technological is, this is an example of like a custom component. They designed it pretty simply. It's just a header with a list, but I can turn that component on and off with that. Communication, same thing. Analytical, same thing. So they have some standard things that they want people to just be able to quickly turn on and off as needed. And
because they're not required for every course. Like some course might just have P, A, and T, right? If they all needed to have all four of those, then they would be hard coded, right? And what you would give them is just the ability to in the pack that they're using. You know, so that's one level. And then the next level is, you know, let's say that for statistical purposes or just continuity, they wanted to define, you know, the 80 different packed skills and have them organized by those, you know, then the next level could be something like, you know, SBA has, where those, you know, predetermined skills would be made available, and then they could click on whichever ones they were using, right? And so, again, the idea is just, you know, where somebody needs to use exact language, just let's make it easy on them, right? And you know, not have them, you know, having to cut and paste or type things in. One of the things that we see is a real where this comes into play is if you belong to some kind of a standards body, you know, like a professional organization, like nursing programs, right? Nursing programs say, you know, you've got to use these predefined objectives. And, you know, so instead of just having somebody go and find the latest ones, you know, you have one person update it in one place, then it's just there.
Oh, if our nursing director was on this call, she would be applauding you right now, because she does go through and change individual syllabi course by course. Yeah, I can see the benefit right away, given what you're saying, for sure.
Yeah, and the more you can standardize, the more the power of this is. So if you can identify the need for these things up front and get them just baked in, then when the instructors get in there and start doing it, it's very intuitive. They just need like a quick 15-minute demo, and they might not even need that, but like they're good to go. Like it's just here's your syllabus, this is how you're going to manage it now, and you don't have to worry about submitting them to everybody and making sure you update people when it's done, and then whoever's the instructional designer or whatever the role is that's over making sure everything's published when the semester starts, they know who's published, they know who hasn't, without having to go visit every course and try to figure out, did they update this or did we just copy this or
So what does the administrative side look like?
So let me finish real quick on the instructor. So the instructor, after they're all done, they just have a publish. We also have a draft mode. This institution has opted to not have the drafts, so sometimes it gets confusing. People forget to publish, but there is a draft mode available if that was desired. But you click publish.
You could save as you go, basically.
Yeah, you can save it without sending it to Canvas, basically.
Okay.
So we can save that now, and then this little thing gives you a little helpful note saying it's been sent to Canvas, and there's the time it was sent. And if I hop back over to Canvas and now refresh, if you remember, we changed the title, we added a bunch of things here. All I'm going to do is just refresh now, and I have all of the stuff that was edited right there in Canvas ready to go. And then, like George is saying, there's this link back out, so they can come out to a nicely formatted, printable, just the syllabus without the shell of Canvas if they want.
And could that be if there was a faculty who had courses in Canvas but still wanted that hard copy to hand to students? Would that be where they would just print from that?
Yep, you would just come here, Control P. I don't know if that shows up, but
yeah, I can see it. Okay,
that was wrong actually, but they can absolutely just print that and go.
Okay, great.
And
again, that'll be a question we'll be asked, because there are the hardcore, you know, it doesn't exist if it's not on paper kind of thing. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. The one hesitation there, if they use that print function from the browser to make a PDF version, I think we've gone a step backwards. That print does not have the user accessibility tags in most browsers. Yeah. So we wouldn't want to start publishing a digital version of that. If they want a digital version, really this is the version. And you can just save this if you wanted, or when we get into the admin, I'll show you the other way we can get that.
Okay.
But you wouldn't want, if you started seeing instructors making PDFs out of this, it's probably not accessible because most browsers aren't going to put the UA tags in the PDF.
Before you go into the back end, John, just click on the Canvas interface real quick. So the other thing, just really quickly, I want to cover is, so when semesters, when an instructor migrates their course forward to the next semester, that HTML is going to be brought forward as well, right? And so when they click on Edit My SALSA, what SALSA is going to say is, I don't recognize this document ID with this course. So either you've copied from another course or you've migrated forward, and it gives them the option. Do you want to start with this as a template and you can go in there and make your changes? Or would you prefer to start with a blank template? So that way, if you have master courses that you're using to pre-populate, people.
So let me just actually demonstrate that real quick. So let's say we've been using SALSA successfully, you're going into the next semester, and like George said, maybe your process is to copy all the previous courses so that they're starting with whatever they had last time. So in that case, what would happen is there'd be a mismatch in SALSA with the course identifier. So I'm just going to simulate that by clearing this out. That's that's the course ID from Canvas. So I'm gonna clear that out of our system off of that same test course we've been working with. And we're just gonna assume that it had a different ID now because I can't really simulate that. So
right.
So now I'm gonna click this edit link and it's going to basically say, hey, we're detecting this isn't the same document that you were working from last time. And they've got a choice basically. Do they want to basically make a copy of their old syllabus on our end, or do they want to just start with a fresh one from the template? So this is what they get. And if they're just doing it as the same instructor, same course, they're probably going to do this, use this SALSA. If it's someone taking over a course and they have their own philosophy and different way of doing things, they would probably just create a new one off the template and start fresh. So that's the way to do that. And if you as an admin if someone's like, hey, I just want to start over, you can just either delete it or clear it out like that, like I just showed, and then they can start over or do what they want. So I'm going to go ahead and just roll it forward. So this will be a new document is created, and then it's mapped to that course. And then we immediately send it over to Canvas to make sure whatever's in Canvas matches what just happened. So it'll be the same in this case, but if we go in the admin, we'll now have two of these guys. So there's this one. There's someone working right now, so that one's not ours, but there's this one and this one that are in there. And this is kind of like what the admin looks like. There's just a list of all this is a slightly older version. We were waiting to deploy theirs. We've cleaned this up a little bit, so it won't look exactly like this, but it'll have the same information. We've kind of condensed it a bit and cleaned it up, some icons.
So
but
like one of the things that Butler decided to do is they were more comfortable with running their own instance. So they have their own instance on AWS, right? So we have the ability to go in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for hosting, we're running on a cloud, like George mentioned, we're using Amazon's infrastructure, and they have the ability to just basically clone the instance, and Butler opted to self-host it, and we just gave them an instance that we just took their account ID, shared it over to them, they spun it up, and then they've granted me access in there to kind of go in and manage it because they want me to do that. But that would be up to you if you even wanted to do that or not. But
yeah,
the core of SALSA is open source, but I think I add a lot of value. So.
Well, it's mostly just to appease their IT department, so.
Sure.
It was
they have some policy that they need to actually own their infrastructure, and SALSA is set up in a way because of its open nature that they absolutely can do that while getting the benefit of having a provider do the support and all that. So
yeah,
our
only thing that we like would probably really balk at with somebody is, at first they were talking about putting it on an actual server, and we're like, you know what, that just doesn't make sense in this day and age.
If we don't support that officially, we support the image that I've configured.
Right.
But if you want to run it yourself, go for it. It's just a Rails application. It shouldn't be hard, really. If you know how to do Rails apps and it's a Postgres database, it's all standard. But I'm not going to support whatever random OS you're running. We actually went down that path once, and it was
man,
it was a mistake.
Oh.
So we have either the fully hosted model where we'll run everything for you as a service. We can give you an image, or it's all open source, so you can do what you want. Those are kind of the three ways. So this last layer here, this is the report layer I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of the semester, what they like to do is they'll hop in here and pull up the report, and this kind of gives them an overview of what's going on. So right now there are for this current semester, there's 430 courses that are already using SALSA. That means they've already published a version. And then there's this many not. And then the ones that are published or not, this is kind of a legacy metric because they don't have a draft mode. But this would basically show the ones that were saved as a draft but not published. And then they have it broken down by their accounts here. So you can kind of get some metrics here. See like these are published, these are the ones that aren't. And then down here is a listing with links out to the document itself, or this little arrow will drop them into Canvas. So it kind of gives them a quick, convenient way to just kind of look it over. The ones that are linked are the ones that are published. If they have permissions, right. We're just going to drop you on Canvas, and if you don't have permission, it would just whatever Canvas does when you don't have permission.
So it's really nice because that way, let's say you have, somebody who's in charge of making sure that something's published, but they don't necessarily, you don't want them going into Canvas and changing things, right? But that's determined by their Canvas credentials in terms of what they'll be given access to. But if somebody has the keys of the kingdom, like most instructional designers do, that they're, responsible for everything with a course, and they could just be like, oh, listen, I want to see what it looks like in Canvas. Oh, great, it's showing up, or whatever they need to do. So, or double check something.
And then if they wanted to generate a new report, they can put something in here. Their reporting system is configured based off their course names. That's what they decided to do. We've done a few different things, but that's kind of what they did. So this acts as a way to change that. So they can just basically, whenever a new semester starts, go generate a new report. It's out here. So they just change that and run a new report whenever they want.
Yeah.
And then that's what's included in that. And then the other thing, if you don't want to see a report anymore, you can archive them. There's a list of all the archived reports if you want to. And then there's this download, and that'll give you a zip archive of all the HTML documents and a style sheet to go with them. So if you wanted to throw those up on a website somewhere, you could just download that whole archive and throw them up, FTP them up somewhere. So that's kind of the back end in a nutshell. There are users, and we have time periods that are a little bit experimental right now, and that kind of simulates terms or different cohorts. And then that's pretty much all that's in the back end, pretty lightweight. There is components. This is if you had a developer, what they would do. So if you had a developer and they wanted to change some style sheet stuff, they could just come in here, make a change, update that, and it would update it for their template.
Yeah, that makes, so when we make changes for you, they just show up right away. The next time somebody, opens up the SALSA, when a new document is created, depending on where it is, if it was already in a previous structure and you made some changes to the content within it, that change will show up as well.
I have a specific training if you had someone that wanted to do that we do before we just say run with it. But in a nutshell, it's a text editor. If they know HTML, CSS, they can manage it. And then we would just share with them the nuances and the details of how SALSA does the thing. But yeah, if you wanted to change, like say this is the footer component, if they wanted to change the text down there, we just change that, hit save, and then that's what controls this. So every element of what you see here in the editor is manageable and customizable.
Yeah.
So, kind of given the way that we started the conversation was saying you don't really have somebody on board that, does HTML and CSS right now.
Right.
We're more than happy to do all of that stuff for you.
Mm-hmm.
What we're just trying to, our philosophy is we don't want anybody dependent on us, right? I mean, if that makes sense for you, for us to take care of it, that's great. But that's our open source philosophy, is that,
Mm-hmm.
if at some point you guys were to bring somebody on that could make those changes, that's great, or if you wanted to build something out. One of the other really exciting things that's happening that you might have caught a little bit of, Rick, is, as there's a user community now, and multiple users are saying, hey, we want this next level, or usually it's kind of a specific user will say, we want to do this, and other people might say, oh yeah, we would love that too. Then that's an opportunity to share costs across, multiple clients.
Yep. And say you guys wanted some custom thing that we didn't do yet. If it fits in with the philosophy of SALSA, we offer custom development services as well. And what actually we do with that is we bring it into the core product, which is open source, and everybody does get the benefit of those efforts.
Yeah, and that it's certainly been one thing, being a part of those groups that Butler's hosting has been fantastic. Just to know there is a group that's not only a core group of users, but also that are 30 minutes away from where we are. makes it nice too. It's not just spread out all over the U.S., but in this instance, there's a number of them really close as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're living in Salsa Central right there. That's our hub.
That's great. That is great. Well, where can we find out, as we move this up the chain, where can we find out pricing, that kind of stuff? I mean, I know at some level that comes into these conversations. What's the next step in that way?
Well, okay. So in terms of our pricing, we've tried to keep things just brutally simple. And so for the basic instance, like John was talking about, where we host it, then we develop a custom template with you guys based upon your needs. And then there's the opportunity to make changes, like twice a year changes. That's $6,500. So it's just a flat fee that's paid once a year, and that's our service level agreement. And that includes us, doing the integration with Canvas, getting you up and running on that. We also, maintain our integration with Canvas. Now, there's I don't know what they could do, but there's always the potential that they could, change something very radically that would, we would have to change, but we have enough skin in the game with Canvas that, and our integration is sophisticated enough that we would make all reasonable efforts to do that.
Yeah. So that's the fully managed option. That would include like support. So we're not going to support individual faculty with that. In fact, we probably don't have an option to do that right now. But if you had a handful of people that were the people who were going to be your SALSA integrators on your campus, they would be able to contact us, and we would respond within 3 business days, or if there was an emergency, we'd obviously prioritize that. But 3 business days, the standard response time, and usually I do quicker than that. But yeah, so that comes with support, the hosting, and then, like George said, those annual updates to your template, up to 2 changes per year.
And that also includes a quarterly administrator meeting between us and you. So that's just an opportunity for us, once a quarter, They check in. Hey, how's everything going? You're saying this is what's coming on the horizon. We want to start looking towards that, and so that's included as well. And we just schedule those and then conduct it over.
And that's how we prioritize like our roadmap of what we're going to focus on is based on feedback people are getting us on what's working and what's not there. So behind all this, we do have some development time that we're just actively working on improving the core product with. So those meetings are great opportunities for us to hear what is and what isn't working for you, and then make changes to the overall product, and you get a chance to inject your influence into the process, really.
Yeah, and one of the things that you might have noticed is we don't have a lot of formal sales and marketing materials. Some of that's a function of it's a pretty dynamic product, so it would be hard to kind of nail down what's there. But I mean, as much as I know that you're working with a committee, so if you needed a quote document that we could send forward, I mean, I could send forward the service level agreement too, so that you can review that and make sure that it works for you. When we were doing a pilot with Butler, this is in spring of 2015, and the idea was that they were going to just bring their online courses. They had done a pilot. They were just going to have the instructors that were teaching online start to use SALSA, all of them, and then we started putting everything together about 6 weeks before the semester jumped off, and things were going so well. 2 weeks before the semester, they said, well, we're just going to do all the face-to-face courses too. We were like, okay, let's do that. And, it was fine, and we had this, 1 4-minute video that I had put together that I might have even sent that one to you, that just shows how to use their template. But that's part of the reason too why we don't have a ton of instructional videos, because most people find it really pretty intuitive. And like John said, the best compliment I ever got as an instructional designer was, this is easy to use as dirt. And I was like, yes, that's what we want. That's why we've tried to keep everything, really streamlined, and we feel like there's a lot of different benefits to that. So
yeah, and high level, if there's things that are not that we do want to hear that, and we do value that feedback too. So don't feel like just because we're saying it's intuitive, if you guys are having an issue with it, definitely tell us and let us know what we need to do, what we need to focus on a little more.
Yep. I actually am just finishing off a series of professional development videos for Tuskegee University. They're a historically black college in Alabama, Tuskegee, Alabama. And so that was something that they wanted I made one for their administrators as kind of a high level one, and then one for their instructors. And so, but yeah, that's why, but we try to focus our energy on, like John said, really moving the product forward and really addressing the needs of our clients. And so, those ancillary things, don't get as much attention unless somebody is like, hey, we really want this or need this. Then we're like, oh, okay, well, let's do that.
Right.
So it's not for not wanting to do it. It's just that most people haven't requested it, or some people have done their own in-house stuff, like Butler, that flyer that they handed out. That's a flyer that they made for SALSA. So
yeah. Okay. No, that's great. That's fantastic. Now, you mentioned the pricing for kind of the full hosting and stuff. I suppose you must have another level, but I would imagine that we would want to start at that anyway. We don't have the other resources to do our own hosting and the stuff that Butler's doing. So
yeah. So
this sounds like where we would slot in anyway.
Right. So if you were going to run your own instance, there would be the database, the storage, and then the compute time if you went like Amazon. So we'd kind of have to figure that out. But I would expect that would cost under $100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what size you guys are, how much traffic you would be doing, but it should be like that would be the cap, I would imagine.
Right. Okay.
You would need to pay there. And then whatever IT resources you would have or need to have to like keep the server patched would be the other consideration there if you're going to do the self-hosted option.
Yeah.
We would give you an image without a cost if you were a customer. Like if say you did the first year with us and then wanted to go self-hosted, we'll give you an image of SALSA to run yourself at any point.
Oh, okay.
Pivot out.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That's helpful. And again, thinking about, we're a fairly small school, about 750 students, and our online program is about 40 maybe a year, maybe, Ruben, that we're running.
Students or courses?
Yeah. Courses.
Oh.
The only other cost I think you would have if you're already set up and going would be when we do updates, you'd probably just need someone kind of monitoring the GitHub repository and pulling those in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those might be security or other feature updates that you're going to want to have. So someone would need to be doing that, and then just the general support for like the components. Like whenever a change needs to be made, you need someone with some HTML, CSS, JavaScript knowledge that could get in, learn SALSA, and apply those changes for your.
Oh my goodness, that was loud. I apologize.
No worries. So how many instructors do you have?
I mean, it's kind of a mix. So we have a number of adjuncts that will be doing this online. So like Butler, we have kind of two different groups, but we're also talking about moving into a uniform system for all of our faculty, including our face-to-face on our main campus. You want to take
face-to-face full-time here on campus. I think we have about 40 faculty.
Well, it's pretty interesting because, one of the things that Butler did a survey, and I was like, oh, well, is it okay if I submit a couple questions? They were kind of nerd questions, and I didn't know if they were going to submit them, but they did. But, I was asking them because I was really interested to see what their opinions were in terms of, did they feel like SALSA compared to when people were doing, they had a Microsoft Word template before, created more standardization at the section, at the course, and at the program level. And at all those levels, they felt that it did. And so, the reason why I started down this path is, when I came to USU, and working as a full-time instructional designer, I was specifically, put over the online course development process, and I realized, like, man, the syllabus is like really key, and why are they just stuck in the dark ages? And some of that is kind of a weird notion of academic freedom, I think. But one of the things that has been demonstrated again and again is, like, the syllabus is a domain that you could win. Like you can absolutely like win it, where it's like all of our syllabi look professional. All of our syllabi are accessible. All of our syllabi have our institutional policies in. And I really feel like it's a great foundation, kind of a, nice, it's something to build on, where you just, you can just make that statement flat out. And, you know, one of the things that I think is really changing, and going to change even more with this next wave of students is, you know, the whole, you know, our course catalogs here, it's still reading tea leaves. You get, you know, 2-3 sentences, and then you're supposed to divine, you know, like what that class is all about, you know, and like, you know, my son's going for his first semester, and you know, he gets half off because I work here, and you know, he's dropping $2,500, you know, for one semester at a, you know, land grant university. You know, to spend that kind of money and to not have more detail than 1 or 2 or 3 sentences, just, it's not gonna, students aren't gonna go for that. And I really, you know, the ability to send over the appropriate portion of a syllabus, you know, of a master syllabus, and have that available. Like we have a program here that lists all the syllabi in their program. And so like a student can go in there, you know, it's a special education program, and they don't have to guess at what's going to be expected of them. You know, they could just go in there and they could see. And then, you know, I mean, the classic example I always use is like K-12 teachers. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, I'm going to go be a teacher because it's just, you know, kind of easy. And then they're like, you know, they, unfortunately, I think many of them get disabused of that notion in their junior year, and then a lot of time and energy wasted. Whereas, you know, if these, you know, syllabi in the program were available, they could make a much more informed decision at the beginning and be like, well, wait a second, I have to take classroom management. I have to take like the psychology class. You know, in a lot of regards, K-12 teachers are more highly trained than a lot of university teachers, you know, in teaching, you know, specifically in pedagogy, in instruction. So that's one of the other things I think is pretty exciting, is the ability to be able to share this information, you know, to the different consumers, whether, you know, students or even parents, as they're trying to help them, you know, make decisions about classes to take, and want to see what their students are doing. Yeah.
No, thank you. This has been really, really helpful. And yeah, thanks for letting us kind of include this last little section that we can pass along. I think I love what you're doing, and yeah, I'm really encouraged. I think we can encourage our faculty or our administration to